Welcome, everyone. I'm Darlisa. You know me. I wanted to introduce a super special guest star today. Today we have George Myers with us, who is the president of the Effectiveness Institute. You know and love him from our customer service retreat that we were lucky enough to spend a day with him last fall. And I just wanted to introduce and tell you a little bit about George. George had, as I said, president of the Effectiveness Institute. He's got over 30 years of experience in internationally recognized facilitation, presentations. So welcome, George.
Wow.
And
Thank you, Darlisa. Thank you.
how the heck are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you. I appreciate that introduction. I'm doing great. And good to see you again. And great to be here with the folks at the port again. I've had such a wonderful time working with the team a while back, and just really happy to be a part of this. So thanks for the invitation, by the way. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
But,
So, how are you doing in this new world?
well, it is pretty challenging, I think, for a lot of people, right? Definitely for the business perspective, it certainly has been challenging as a small business. Naturally, we've experienced the impact like so many businesses have. Personally, I mean, changing the routines, it creates that kind of disequilibrium, right? Working from home a lot more often. And so, yeah, and not being able to go out and have our normal interactions with people. So it's been challenging, no question about it. I've definitely seen some tension and felt tension with other people as well in this. I'm confident we're going to get through it, but yeah, it's a challenging time, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is for everyone. One thing I thought was really interesting when we were talking about this before, you had mentioned that you thought when you recognize tension in people during this time, that you can
Mhm.
really recognize predictable patterns of behavior that people
It's true.
react in. I mean, did
Yes,
you want to tell us a little bit more about
I,
that?
I would be happy to do that. Yes, let me bring up a little presentation slide here. Okay, let me do
Okay,
that. That'll help a
awesome.
little bit. Okay, so
Cool.
we have this. Everybody at the port has already seen this, where we talk about these
Oh,
different
yeah.
styles of behavior, right?
Mhm.
So let me go ahead and share a little bit about how this works. I'm going to go back up here a little bit here. So we have these 4 behavior styles that we talked about, and there's different names for them depending upon what model you use. Those are the port. You probably remember we talked about controller, persuader, analyzer, stabilizer.
Mhm.
Really, the words that describe those things aren't what is important, as we talked about before. It's really, what do those look like? Because we all do all of these to some degree, but we tend to prefer one or two more than others. So thinking about tension reaction, and I think about initially, especially, what are some of those patterns that emerge? Well, we've learned over the years that controllers have this comfort zone. People with this behavior pattern preference, they like to get results, they like to be in control and make things happen. So when they get pushed out of their comfort zone, so in other words, when they don't feel like they have control as much, which of course is happening a lot right now with what's happening with COVID-19, when they get pushed out of their comfort zone, they do what every other person does. They want to get back in their comfort zone. It's a comfort zone because that's where we tend to like to be, right? So what do? They do the same thing every style does. We don't overextend our weaknesses. We use our strengths and we overextend those till they become weaknesses. So controllers, they have these strengths for making decisions and taking quick action, right? And not getting too emotionally caught up and worrying about emotions too much in making decisions. That's a real strength of theirs. But then when they get in tension, they overextend those strengths. And what they do is they really take control. I mean, they will like dictate to people what they need to do. It's very much of a kind of taking control kind of situation, which of course is not very comfortable to be around. Like none of these real reactions are. Persuaders, their comfort zone, as you know, kind of what they're all about. They're all about energy and optimistic and enthusiasm and positivity, right? So they get pushed out of their comfort zone. How does that happen? Well, for persuaders, that happens a lot when they feel like people don't trust them. They feel like they're kind of putting them down, or they kind of feel like they're talk about being insincere. They don't include them in things as much. So to get back in their comfort zone, they also overextend their strengths. You might remember in the session we had, persuaders' strength is verbal skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they take that strength and they multiply it till it becomes an attack. They become extremely verbal. So they really start to become very verbal people. Now, they have different ways of modifying that. Like they can use biting sarcasm as a disguised verbal attack. But this idea that they become really expressive, a lot more expressive. Stabilizers, they're very much about the harmony, very much about relationships and about making sure people get what they need. There's a certain gentleness about them. It's so wonderful, very a warmth about them and friendliness. So when they get pushed out of their comfort zone, again, they overextend their strengths. How does that happen with a stabilizer? Well, I think this happens a lot when there's a lot of tension, when there's a lot of conflict, and they feel like, they can't maintain that harmony. And of course, there's a lot of that happening right now as well. So to get back in their comfort zone, they overextend their strengths, and their strength again is that harmony. So they want to say harmony, so they multiply that need so much they acquiesce a lot more. So they'll agree with people a lot. Okay, sure, okay, well, we'll do that. And sometimes what's interesting is people will see a stabilizer acquiesce and they think they agree with them. They don't. They're simply trying to get things to calm down so that people will be okay. The analyzer styles, this is about the quality, accuracy, perfection, doing things the right way the first time, a little more serious-minded. A lot of times they have a great sense of humor, but even their humor tends to be more serious, if you will, sometimes. And again, we do all of these to some degree, but people have a real preference there. They can get pushed out of their comfort zone when they feel like they're not able to do things well. And of course, right now, that's a real challenge too, because there's so much that's changing. So to get back in their comfort zone, they will once again overextend their strengths of being very careful and thoughtful and taking time to make the right decision. And they will multiply that so much they just withdraw. They'll withdraw. So I think when we take these to an extreme, we can see a lot of negative problems that come up, right? People, they're taking control in ways that maybe aren't appropriate. Even though right now, I think with COVID-19, controllers, this is their moment because they will lead us into a new future, if you will. But if they do that in a way which is not sensitive at all to others, that's pretty uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And persuaders verbally attacking, no one enjoys that. When a stabilizer acquiesces, that might be kind of a little more comfortable in some ways because they're not conflicting a lot. But again, they go away and they didn't feel like they were heard or understood.
Right.
And when stable analyzer withdraws, it's the same thing. So all of these patterns up here, while they're understandable, they're just not very helpful for building a good rapport with people.
Right. That is just awesome insight. I mean,
fascinating.
This video is really, this interview, I'm really doing this for the Pathfinder group, who are our awesome customer service people.
Yes, they are.
Support customer service people. And they are on the front lines. They are dealing with all this tension every day with people.
Yeah.
So do you have specific tips that you could give them for dealing with these different kinds of behaviors when you spot them?
Yes. Let me do that. I'll give a few for each one of these styles because there are things that we've learned that are. What's interesting, I think, Darlisa, too, is that what works for some person's tension reaction doesn't work for another person at all. So sometimes we do something because of a training we've had that for one style or a couple styles might be the exact opposite of what they want. So I appreciate you asking that question. For example, when controllers are more kind of dictating, if you will, if the Pathfinders were to see somebody who was more in that pattern of behavior, the thing that they really want when they're in a situation is they want action quickly. They don't want to discuss feelings or emotions. They don't want to hear people say things like, oh, I'm really sorry that you're frustrated about that. For many controllers, that's just simply more irritating to them when they hear that. They don't want emotional empathy at all. And they don't want you to become competitive. And they also don't want you to use humor. So don't try to make a joke about it. The best thing you can do with a controller is just give them a short, brief answer to their question or, to direct that very directly, to say, don't mean to be, telling you what to do here, sir, but just trying to make sure we get things done. Or ma'am, get things done. That goes a long way for them, right? Which may be not a response we might typically think of, right? You might think, well, they want you to be empathetic. They really don't want that as much when they're in that kind of taking control, kind of barking right back kind of a way of approaching someone. Persuaders, when they become a lot more verbal, they actually really want you to let them go ahead and say what they want to say as much as possible and try to understand that they're not simply being overly emotional, but there's a reason why they feel that way and try to express what that is. I'm sorry, this is pretty frustrating when this happens, isn't it? Mm-hmm. For them, they'll kind of go, yeah, you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so you don't just think I'm being overly emotional, even though they are being very emotional in other styles. For persuaders, it's simply their way of communicating. So understanding that, kind of restating what you think is there, don't kind of imply they're being too emotional. Like, just calm down. That doesn't help them at all. It actually makes it worse, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. For a stabilizer, someone who's acquiescing a lot, the best thing to do is just to make sure you calm your voice down for them. Make sure you calm a little bit, express appreciation for their willingness, to go along with this, action that's being taken, if you will. And then again, not to be confrontational at all with them. So let them know that, that's where the gentleness really comes in. Now, for a controller, that's the exact opposite thing. Isn't that fascinating?
It is.
So
and I think that we talk so much about in customer service, we talk about empathy all the time. So it's
Yes.
really interesting to
Yes.
kind of call that out, the different way that you deal with them
Yeah.
based on their
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah, for a controller and for an analyzer too, as you'll see, doesn't really help as much. They don't want to be talked about the emotions that they have or that you have. They're not interested in that at all. They don't want to hear that. They do like the calm voice. They do like the sense of time, but they really want facts and data. And facts and data for a persuader will drive them crazy. So when a persuader is being verbally expressive, when someone goes, "Here's the facts," boom, 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 they just get more irritated. Whereas for an analyzer, they go like, "Oh, okay, now I understand why you're saying that, or why I have to do that, or why that's happening." So anyway, so these are some quick tips that we talk about with people just to help them kind of understand how these differences can really help calm the tension and reduce the tension people may be feeling. And hopefully this is helpful at home and at work both.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm sure some of us have some of those, I don't know, analyzers, controllers at home.
Right.
I'm not mentioning any names. I love that though. I think those are really great practical tips for people and to really help, to help them respond better today and
I
tomorrow.
hope so. I really hope so. Exactly. Yeah. And because that's the one thing, these are not going to go away. These patterns, even in COVID-19 in the future world, these patterns still exist. They're still there, and ways to understand them and how to work successfully with them. So important. It's a great life skill. So, and I love talking about this, as you know, so really appreciate the time and come and share this with you and with the group.
Oh, George, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it so much. And it's it's just so great for you to give up your time to help us,
Pleasure.
help these, we're really trying to bring some really good content and material and people to the Pathfinders in this, difficult time that they're working in right now, and we all are.
Yep.
And so I really appreciate you being here. So did you have any last thoughts or motivation, inspiration, anything else you want to leave us with?
Sure. Yeah, you know what? I will. I've been doing this sometimes actually during some of my webinars now as I'm doing more remote work. Many people don't know this, but I am a musician too and a songwriter. And I was actually part of a Beatles tribute band in Seattle for about 28 years. Some people don't know that about me.
Oh.
And yeah, so one of the things that I really enjoy doing sometimes is closing with a little Beatle tune for people, because I found in all those years of playing the Beatles music that people oftentimes, it's encouraging for them. A lot of the music is very fun and enjoyable, right?
Yes,
so
everybody loves the Beatles.
Beatles, right? That's good, right? So one of the songs I love to do is I love to talk about how there's one of the Beatles songs, one of my favorites, a George Harrison tune that just speaks about something I think about encouragement, about good things coming, about the joy of something coming. And it's the sunshine he talks about in this song. And we've had some of that here in the Northwest recently, of course, but I'm also thinking about how, going forward, I think, we know we're going to make it through this. We know there have been challenges, there have been difficulties, there have been tragedies. So it's been a very challenging time, but I know that we're going to get through this. And so I love singing this song as a way of a little encouragement as we go. That sound good?
That sounds awesome.
Okay. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. There we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you, Pathfinders, for the work you do. Thanks for the chance to come and be with you and to sing a little inspirational song, hopefully, for you. The sun is coming. Hopefully you experience some of that and you're encouraged by that. So great to
Thank you so much, George, for your time. Appreciate it.
Take
care.
Good to see you. Take care. Be well.